Hey, what's going on, guys? Tyler here, and today I am joined by Jason O'Neill. He is a seven-figure Amazon seller, probably eight-figure a year now almost, right? Like probably getting close to it.
Yeah, we're over that at this point.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So an eight-figure a year Amazon seller. That's amazing. And he also is the owner of Ecom Solutions, which is the software and the service that I'm using to create my FBA business now that I've been working on and talking a little bit about for 3 to 4 months vaguely. But I wanted to get him on for an interview, and I wanted to discuss some of the questions that I had and some of the questions that I know people who are maybe watching this video would have before they would be interested in doing something like this or signing up for something like this. So yeah, Jason, let's just get right into it. What is Ecom Solutions?
I need to rebrand the name. I was thinking, I see like there's too many ecom solutions out there. Ecom's just a platform. I would say the best way to explain it now is it was built initially for drop shipping. Like you, I have been heavy into the drop shipping space for some years, and initially it was the very first kind of automated platform that handled the inventory management. So there's all that drop shipping stuff that's kind of built into the platform that we put in over years. But the pivot really has been over the last 12 months, where I would say the best way for me to explain it is it's a wholesale marketplace that just makes it easy for someone to be able to log in and identify products that they want to put into their store and be able to just kind of execute on the purchase of that product without having to get set up with their own suppliers, without having to figure out how to handle spreadsheets and upload it into technologies, and last of all, not having to do the prep. Receiving a pallet at your apartment isn't possible. So when we thought this out, we wanted to, we kind of came from the same world of, hey, let's teach people how to do stuff. And over the years I would kind of like teach some of the wholesale stuff, but you'd realize people always had the same exact challenges, like getting set up. If you go into any Facebook group out there, it's always the same things. Hey, I'm having a hard time identifying suppliers that will work with me, and if I do, I don't know how to find any profitable products from them. And then you kind of have that last issue of, I don't know how to do prep. How do I label the boxes? How do I set up the shipping plans? And some of the minute little techie type of details. So our goal was to kind of solve that and just be a platform people could use to kind of manage a portfolio of products. That's the way we think of kind of the Amazon marketplace. Is it's like your own little stock portfolio, but we're trading physical products instead of stocks here. And we wanted to take all the kind of the challenges that most people have away and just create a platform that gives us buying power. It gives us a lot of negotiating power with our suppliers because we're able to send them so much volume through. I've always liked the idea of crowdfunding or crowdsourcing. It's a pretty powerful concept. And I've kind of always figured that, there's enough of us small Amazon sellers. Even as an eight-figure seller, we're still tiny, like in the grand scheme of the market cap, as big as the e-commerce market cap is, or let's just say the reseller market cap on Amazon. I mean, we're just a sliver of it still. And I've always kind of believed that as a group, we can establish a buying power that rivals even some of the largest retailers out there, like the Home Depots and like the Walmarts. And I think we've had a really good first year. We've had a lot of growth. When we launched a year ago, it's funny, we didn't even have like what you have access to now, like with seats. That didn't exist. It was a spreadsheet. It was kind of an idea that we sold initially, and we said, okay, there's some interest. Here's a spreadsheet. And there was 200 products to choose from, and now we have, I believe we're tracking something like 62,000 at this point, and we are constantly trying to add more every single day. So we have a pretty nice operation where we've been able to combine technology with just our understanding of the just working with wholesalers and distributors they all have very similar problems. Like they have problems. They don't understand technology very well. They don't understand e-commerce all that well. And then you have sellers that also kind of don't understand the intricacies of the wholesale, kind of like how wholesalers operate, and how they get their products, and kind of the whole inner workings of that.
Yeah,
So we
it's
just try to be the connector of the two. That's kind of like our spot in the space, is to connect distribution to people who need access to those products.
Yeah, it's like you were saying with the economies of scale thing, like, you have a bunch of people coming together and indirectly, but kind of directly, paying for the warehouse space, like all that's built into the cost of the products and whatnot. And I mean, yeah, it would be impossible for me to scale as quickly as I've scaled. And a full disclaimer, I still am like, this is my first month where I'm actually going to be like break even, which is amazing because I saw like, month one, month two, like I lost money, but I saw the uprise. Like I saw that I was getting close. And then to finally be at that point where you're like, okay, nice. Like I made enough profit to cover my expenses. Now anything from here is going to go in my pocket. Like that's an amazing feeling. And with drop shipping, you don't really experience that too much. You can scale up very quickly without,
Yeah.
having to worry about those things. But yeah, like
Yeah, it's just like with drop shipping, it's a numbers game, right? Just how much stuff can you throw up against the wall, and some of it's bound to kind of hit. It's like you could just almost, with the click of your snap of your fingers or something, sales start happening. Whereas this, it's a lot more methodical. A lot
yeah.
of people struggle with that kind of that a mental challenge of that first 60 to 90 days of kind of getting through that grind stage of like, is this going to work for me? It might work for someone else, but I think we all need to have that internal belief that we're capable of doing it, because there is a skill involved, right? You have to learn a skill that, some people don't get.
Yeah, and that actually leads me into like all these are questions that I had separate, but they kind of lead me into my next two questions. So one, how long does it take the average client that you've seen come in become profitable? And two, how many clients quit after the first like 3 months before even
Oh,
giving themselves a chance?
yeah, that's good. Those are good questions. So, yeah, so since currently our offers had a 60-day kind of like try me before you buy me kind of phase, 28% of people don't make it to the 60-day part. It's kind of like, and it is what it is. It doesn't bother us. Hey, if it's not for you, it's not for you. Not a big deal, right? Like it's not going to be for everyone. But the way that we're kind of looking at it is the people who do stick. We hope that they're with us for years and years and years to come, and we provide a very valuable service. The second part of that question, or the first part, is how long does it take for the average person? In full disclosure, half the people don't do that much, right? Like half the people don't, they kind of break even. They're about break even every single month. That's about as big as they go. And it's just a lack of inventory, right? Like at the end of the day, it's all about how much inventory do you have. So it's how much do you kind of like front load? I know I've heard you say a couple times that you front loaded the work. You worked a lot. You kind of like try to front load your inventory. So with the supply chain being kind of as challenging as it is right now, it's really just a matter of how long does it take for those products to actually start making their way in. And you have some stuff that starts getting in pretty quickly, and then you have other things that take some time. It could be up to 3, 4, 5, 6, or even longer months until those products actually like make their way into the actual supply chain. So it's a challenging question to answer. Really, it's a matter of how much inventory do you have? Something that we track every single week. I think you've probably seen me talk about it, is your inventory value. And then inside of ecom, where you can see like, what's the projected profit on that inventory. So, the better that you do on the front end of your product selection, the quicker the money starts turning around. So, within 60, 90 days, if you really put the work in and you get enough stuff, if you have at least, I would say the break even number is usually going to be, five to, $7,500 worth of inventory sitting in there just to kind of cover the cost of doing business. And once you start breaking past that point, that's when you'll start seeing some, like you said, money that you'll be able to kind of keep in your pocket, after your expenses are paid. And our goal has always been, because I know it's like if you go out there and you start a warehouse and you do all this on your own, the expenses, you need like significantly more inventory than like with our program just to kind of get to a break even point.
Yeah,
So
you're definitely empowering like a smaller seller to be able to come in and just do this business model where, yeah, whereas before, I mean, you gotta be able to talk on the phone to get suppliers. You got to be able to have a place to ship the products from. You got to understand the Amazon back office. So yeah, you're definitely empowering someone just to come in who has money, and all they have to do is learn how to like do the product research, and that's pretty much it. And they're good to go. Like as long as they can
that's
manage the money and manage the product research, they're fine. I mean, I with my drop shipping business, I was doing 7 figures a year with sales, but I had to have 12 employees at one point running between eBay and
yeah.
Amazon. With this business, I mean, I can work on it. I think like from what I've seen so far, 2 to 4 hours a week probably, and I can do it all myself,
Yeah.
which is a that's a big change for me. The overhead is so much less, and it's just yeah, the startup cost is literally just the inventory and the small ecom fee, which is amazing. Um, there was something you said in there that actually was a question of mine. Oh yeah. So how the question was, how much money do you need? Like, would you recommend someone to start? Like, if someone was like, I have $2,000 and that's all I have, this business probably isn't for them right now, right? Like,
Yeah. I always say, at least 10 grand if you really want to give yourself a shot. Like you can do it with less. Trust me. Like if you pick stuff that only gets you, let's say, 100% ROI, there's products in there, right? Like there's some that are in there that produce that kind of, it's not like it's an infinite amount. So you have to start with what you have. And if I'm working with a limited budget of five, six, seven, $10,000, I'm trying to identify the highest return on investment products. Like I'm gonna make my criteria so strict that I'm not going for some of the those heavy hitting products that sell hundreds of times a month, because typically those are going to be your products that you're going to get your lower returns on, even though they're exciting to get a whole bunch of sales. It's all a matter of kind of like just the mathematics of it all. The greater your ROI, the faster your money grows, right? So if you're starting with a limited budget, it's a matter of just kind of being really, really strict with what because you'll grow it a lot faster. You can
yeah,
start with 5 grand. It's just going to be like, you got to be good too, right? And I think that there's going to be a learning curve for most. And I still make mistakes when I pick inventory too. So it's not like you ever get to a point where you're never going to make a mistake and buy a bad product that doesn't sell as fast as you want it to sell. Or the competition jumps in, or you bought it kind of like at a temporary high, and where the last 12 months it's really been selling at $22, but you bought it when you thought it was going to be selling at $27, and at 22 you're breaking even, at 27 you're doing good, but so there's a little bit of that goes on, but bare bones 5 grand, and
yeah,
it's going to even be challenging, I think, at that, unless you're probably better off doing like retail arbitrage or something like that, and kind of prepping products yourself and just sending them in. And, once you get the bankroll a little bit bigger, that's when you'd probably want to start looking at moving into FBA,
yeah.
or I guess wholesale FBA. There's all these acronyms for the whole, the way that you do Amazon. It's kind of funny. You have FBA, and I always thought FBA is just like FBA. No, that's actually private label.
Yeah.
Wholesale FBA, and then there's retail arbitrage FBA, right?
That's right. Yeah. There's tons of different ways to make money on Amazon. That's what's so great.
It
But
really is.
I feel like private label is probably the most profitable long run, but that's obviously the hardest barrier to entry,
Yeah,
like to learn, and like the highest risk. And then you have
yeah,
drop shipping that's like you're guaranteed to probably get suspended if you don't do it correctly. But then yeah, FBA wholesale is like this really nice, like consistent. I feel like I don't have to wake up every morning and check my email to see if I got suspended, which is nice.
yeah. Yeah.
It's definitely it's a great business model for sure. One thing though that you were talking about was kind of the strategy with buying products and whatnot. I kind of started off just buying whatever I saw was good. Like I didn't really think about, okay, I need to like I assumed my limits would grow. I guess on Amazon, I have a 1,000 unit limit right now, which is
Yeah.
very low.
Yeah.
And I actually am up against that right now. I already have 1,000 units that are in and like being shipped in. So yeah, I kind of like made the mistake of just buying like anything and everything that was profitable, not really worried about ROI, whatever, because I didn't really have to worry about the capital. I knew I had enough capital to kind of make it work. What would you say to someone who is coming into with like 1,000 units or 500 unit limit? I don't know how low it actually goes, but would you
I'd
just
say a thousand is like the
okay,
low.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So would you just say like just sell as many units as you can, don't care about like how much money you're making, that will come eventually, or should I be more selective and go for those higher ROI and maybe like you know how there's really high ranking tools and stuff like that that
Yeah.
you're making good margins on.
Yeah.
What would be like your advice to somebody coming in with a fresh account who doesn't have, big limits?
Inventory space is kind of their algorithm's hard to figure out, overall. Like it's really challenging to figure out like what, because they'll some weeks they'll give you a bunch of space and then the next week they'll kind of take it away. So it really is a byproduct. I've kind of realized like when you're kind of start running up against inventory limitations, you either kind of like front loaded and you had a ton of stuff kind of shipping in and it hasn't had a lot of time to start selling yet, or it's a byproduct of if my limitations aren't growing. In a lot of ways, I have too many products that are kind of like aging and they're not
Mhm.
selling fast enough. So a lot of the issues that we run across is it's almost like a byproduct of doing the wrong research, buying a ton of some of the common issues that we see is, hey, it's a variation product that's got 30 different variations. And overall, it sells 100 times collectively amongst all those variations. But someone buys like 100 units and it's like, maybe three would have been the better option, right? So
What's funny you mentioned that. I actually just learned how to figure out the units, like how many sell per variation. I don't know if you've heard of the way that you can look at reviews and see how many reviews come from
yeah,
each variation, and then just like take that percentage of the sales. So that's what I've been doing, and I found a lot more opportunity there. But you're 100% right. Like I see some variations, the product sells 1,000 times a month. That variation gets 1% of the total
yeah,
like
yeah,
reviews, and who
yeah,
knows with the variants, like it could just be like that product doesn't sell anymore and yet someone
yeah.
bought a ton of inventory. I'm sure you run into
For
that
like
all the
for
time.
like a new person, like the kind of like the rule of thumb is just to avoid anything. Yeah, I have a few private consulting clients, and I always just say like if there's any doubt in your mind, if it's not like I know my research is solid on this, if there's any reason to believe that hey, I might get stuck with a bunch of inventory, like the buy box today looks like it's good, but like we were just saying, over the last 2 years or 5 years, it's always been at 22.99. In the last 10 days, it's been at 27.99.
Yeah.
You probably make a fair assessment and say that it's probably going to return back to 22.99 when whoever is selling it. I've got some of those products myself, where I'm selling against a brand and I just can't compete with them. So it's like I
And they
shouldn't have
just
bought
they
that
like
many.
just happened to run out of stock like when
Yeah,
you're doing your
yeah,
product research. I had one. I sold it was a throwing knife. I sold so many, and then Amazon popped on it right after I put my second order in. I bought like 60 units and
yeah,
Amazon popped on, and now like I tried lowering my buy box
yeah.
where I'm actually 40 cents below them, but they lower it perfectly to where they're still above me and they're in the buy box and I can't beat them. It
They're
is
so
so
good.
frustrating,
They're
man.
they're they're so hard to go against because they have like they're like their algorithm that they use for their repricing is so tight as well. So they'll raise the price up, and they know that like if you're using a repricer, yours is going to kind of like follow them up a little bit, unless you're like manually setting the price.
Yeah.
Which I tend to usually do when I have to kind of make one of those decisions to go against Amazon. A lot of times, if you're not up against your inventory limits, a lot of times the answer is to just wait. you know, like wait until the competitors sell out, even if it takes 3 months, even if it takes 6 months. You know, I think a lot of times people tend to be in a hurry to try to start liquidating their products. You know, they panic pretty quickly. You know, like, oh, wow, this product looked great. And now just like what just happened, I've got plenty of those to where on the replan, the brand might get back in on it, or you know, like Amazon gets in. You know, the toughest category for me has been toys. That one has just I got a lot of toys right now. Like I'm waiting for Christmas, and I'm just like, I hope these things, like, you know, I hope that they sell out. You hear of these supply chain challenges, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
well, if there's no toys available for Christmas, you figure anything that is available is going to go.
I was thinking that exact same thing where I was like, wow, this could be like a really good thing for people who are, you know, can't compete with the buy box because yeah, they can't get inventory in if it's from China. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
I sell a lot of food products too, and I'm sure you do too, because that's like a lot of the suppliers and
it's
seeds. I
actually
feel like.
our top category out of like all the ROI.
Mhm.
Food and candy are our top grossing as far as like ROI is concerned. Candy across the board does 40% ROI, and food does 36%
Wow. Yeah.
ROI. You
Yeah.
know,
I have a lot
whereas
of that, and it's probably not from China, right? Like a lot of it's probably from
yeah,
U.S. or like I know there's some
yeah,
Mexican
the
suppliers.
vast majority. Yeah, the vast majority. We do have an importer in the food category. That's pretty cool. It's one of our newer suppliers. They get stuff imported in from Europe. They do like European kind of foods. So
Nice, like
uh,
specialty items. Yeah.
yeah, we've been trying to get set up with some like Mexican food distributors. We haven't been able to land any yet, but we've been working on it. With that conference we went to recently, we had this really good conversation, and we've been following up, but they just haven't got back with us. So we'll just keep following up. But yeah, food, candy tends to mostly be manufactured here. So there's a pretty steady supply, whereas some other stuff like gloves, you know, or some of the weird things, the tools
Yeah.
are, you know, the lead times can sometimes be pretty long on those if they're being manufactured, like, and they have to get shipped, especially now with you know, all the shipping cargo stuck in the middle of the ocean. So
Yeah. It is
um
crazy.
yeah, the way
Oh,
I look at it is it's kind of a numbers game, to where the more stuff you kind of like have, you know, it's like a funnel. You're filling the funnel, and things come at different stages. Food generally going to get shipments every single week. On that, you're not going to have long lead times. You know, even if our distributor is out of stock on something, they'll have it next week probably. You
mhm.
know, candy, you know, you have some stuff that it does take a little bit of time. You know, in some cases they have good supplies, but I know with our candy distributors, you know, they've had challenges with their warehouses because they haven't had enough workers. So there's all these like little issues that you hear about in the news that, you know, we get to experience kind of on the ground. And you know, I don't know if it's as bad as they make it out to be or not. You know, it's you just kind of live with it. You know what I mean? Like the more
Yeah.
that you kind of stack into the top of your funnel, you kind of have a consistent thing going. Now, if you only had like 10 products and you're like, I'm going to wait for all of these to come in, shit, you might be waiting for a while. You know,
Yeah,
depends on
definitely.
what you're getting.
Yeah, especially if it's not like food products. You mentioned tools, and like one thing I wanted to ask you while I had you on here was about the ranking of products. And I know obviously there's Keepa and there's Jungle Scout and like all of that, and you know you have your own estimator, I guess, and seats that you pull somewhere from somewhere. But when it comes to the products that like when you're doing your sourcing, I guess, do you filter what's like the maximum ranking you'll buy a product for? And I guess does that depend on the
Um,
ROI and whatever?
yeah, I guess it depends on category. You know,
For
I'm a fan
for the tools specifically, I guess, and
for
like
tools. Yeah, you know, I'd probably go up to about 500,000
wow,
in
okay.
that, and I would only have a couple units at that. You know, but about when it starts getting over that, you start having like long kind of like time frames where it's not selling. Um, Something that we like to kind of do is, especially on stuff where there's good margin or there's enough ROI in it, we'll also on, especially on like higher ranking stuff like that, or I don't know if that's higher, worse ranking stuff, we will try to do some PPC ads on those as
That
well
makes
to try
sense.
to try to get them to kind of move a little bit. Some products it works well, and you can kind of keep your campaigns running for a long time, and then others it doesn't really move the needle. So, but as far as kind of it's for me, it's not necessarily sales rank that's important. It's just having the right amount of units on something.
Yeah.
If it's ranked 400,000 or 500,000, I don't want to have 60 units. But sometimes it's weird. Sales rank can be misleading at times as well, where you might have data on a product and it's like, wow, this is selling a good bit. It's ranked 400,000, but I just sold 10 units in the last 2 weeks. And it
So
looks like
that's
it's
actually
actually,
happened. That's actually happened before for you. You've had a product like
yeah,
that.
yeah, for sure. I remember these light bulbs that, they looked, nobody was buying them. Because the sales rank wasn't good, but they were selling like crazy, So sometimes I really look at that Keepa graph. I've gotten good at reading the Keepa chart. I can kind of like look at a chart within seconds now. I can identify kind of like a roundabout, not maybe not like how many times something sells, but if you see the kind of the shark fin forming where it's like there's a steep decline, or
Yeah.
it's like this, you can kind of tell it's like that's not usually going to be a great product, so you don't want to have a lot of units. But I've got some products that aren't very good sales rank that I only have a couple units of. Like, you can even go up to 1 million, but hey, it might be 4 or 5 months until it sells, but it will sell. And if it has a good ROI, and chances are it's not going to just like magically have a bad ROI. It's
Hmm.
probably not just going to, most likely someone's not going to come in and race down to the bottom, on a product that's
Yeah.
kind of like that,
So
so
with those products, it's more about just patience. Like you just buy them and they're like your home run
yeah,
sale every once in a while. You get
yeah,
not
yeah.
a high percentage.
Yeah, you
All right.
might make
So
50, $60. I'm a fan of high tickets. Like, I love making $100 in a sale. Like, I
yeah,
love tools and stuff. And the thing about like stuff like that is they tend to, not many people want to buy 300 units that cost, $250 each, because you're putting a pretty substantial amount. So you'll have certain products that, even if 6 or 7 of us are buying, you might buy 3, someone else might buy 5, someone else might buy 6, and overall, we're still not even meeting the kind of the buying demand of those products, just because collectively those products cost just so much more. And
yeah,
you don't want to tie up all your bankroll in like one product.
for sure. Are you worried about saturation at all? Speaking of like different people buying the same products, like
That's
are
a
you
good question.
and are you gonna and I guess to follow that up, will you ever put a cap on how many people join?
So yeah, that's a really good question. A year ago, I would say we were definitely stepping all over each other when we had 200 products to choose from. A lot less of that now, and I think overall we don't want thousands of clients. So there's definitely always going to be a cap. I mean, I would much rather go the exclusive route. Find people that are going to have a high likelihood of being successful. Rather than just have a ton of people, because the way that I think about it is, I want you to be with us in 5 years from now. And we're always kind of monitoring, where's this is what our overall inventory looks like. And, if we're not getting enough buying going on, then we might have to bring more people in. If our inventory, like our product selection starts kind of outpacing.
Mm,
But really over the last several months, I mean, we haven't had to bring a lot of people in. We closed the doors actually for the last couple months. You haven't even been able to get into the program. So I think that we'll kind of constantly have that waiting list in place. Well, I don't know. I'm kind of like up in the air about, do we do a waiting list? Do we just raise the price, and there's a lot of things that have kind of gone through, but at the end of the day, for me, it's all about making sure that you're happy, and that if we start getting a lot of feedback that there's just too much competition. We haven't seen that, like we thought that there might be a possibility of saturation. We haven't seen that at this point yet,
I will say, I will
but
say on the best products, like
yeah.
you added this one product. I won't say the name so people can't find us, but you added this one product and I was like, oh, sweet. This product is so good. Like I'm going to buy, X amount of units, whatever. And I had to get ungated. So I only bought like 10 of them.
Yeah.
And I look back the next day and there's 7 purchase orders for it. And it was
Yeah.
like, it was one of the best ROI products I've seen in terms of how much it
Yeah.
costs, how much you're making, and the sales rank of the product. So yeah,
Yeah.
like I will say the best products do get like
Yeah.
saturated, but maybe not like the middle there's still a lot of room for like the
It's
middle.
kind of, yeah, it's kind of like, you'll get kind of intimate with your inventory to where you'll have 10% of your products will be the bell cows. They'll be the ones that really move the needle for you. So you'll really be aware of how the market. I've got a couple that have done really, really well, and the competition, yeah, it never, because the first buy box is so low compared to where the second buy box is. I think that the average seller who's kind of like doing their product research looks at it and it doesn't look profitable. Whereas, we're just killing it for a year on some of these things. So yeah, you will have some. That's probably one of the, as a seller, it's kind of like one of those annoying things where it's like it is a competitive marketplace. You will definitely have products where the competition gets in and you're like, well, do I wait or what do I do? That's kind of like one of those personal decisions that we all have to make. Do I want to just hold off even if it's 3 months? Like toys, for example, right now, it's like, all right, just wait and see what happens in November, see what happens in December. And if they don't do well at that point, then, hey, I've got January, I can just unload and liquidate. I
Yeah.
guess that's the.
Well, the thing is too, is like, I guess you don't have to sit there and like be sad about one product, becoming
Yeah.
competitive or whatever. There's so much opportunity just overall. Like you said, there's, you don't have, your people aren't stepping on each other now with 60,000 products.
Yeah.
There. And I think out of those, I think I looked the other day, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, there's at least like 4 to 5,000 that are at least like, I think $2 profit if you look at it, but a lot of like, yeah.
I did a $5 profit sort a few days ago, and it was 7,000
Okay, yeah, so I was
products.
wow, way off. Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, it's a
Probably
lot, and
had some other
like,
filters on there too, but yeah.
so something that I heard a few months back is like when we think of really what makes Amazon, from a consumer perspective, as a person who shops, what makes Amazon such a unique shopping experience is their selection. Like there's billions of products. You could buy anything as long as it's legal. You're not buying ammunition, you're not buying guns, but you could buy almost anything that you could possibly imagine on Amazon. And our goal, I think that my initial goal years back, I remember, having like company meetings, and it says, our goal is to be like the Google of e-commerce, whatever that means, but I think what that really means is we want to have the largest selection of products. Like right now, we're scratching the surface. There's so many products that we haven't even gotten to at this point. I mean, we want to have a million to choose from. If you think of like Walmart, like what makes drop shipping so cool is, oh, Walmart has 2 million products to choose from. Home Depot has 2 million products to choose from. So that's kind of our goal, is to create that kind of marketplace to where there's never any shortage. Because one thing that I like what we did was we have the information updating on a daily basis. Whereas if you use a software to kind of like run a spreadsheet, one of the challenges that you run into if you go out there and kind of like do this all on your own, you might run a spreadsheet through a software that will spit out all the results of like the popularity, the competitive landscape, but that's a snapshot at that time.
Mhm.
And the marketplace is constantly moving. So every single day, if you do that same filter, you're going to get a different result. Like products that yesterday didn't look as good, today it might be a good product. So that's kind of the cool thing about the way that our marketplace operates. It's almost real time. It's updating consistently. It's not just a static view at that time, because that was always an issue when, all right, we'd source through a catalog of products, and now we have to run the spreadsheet again. So instead of having to constantly run these spreadsheets, the system's kind of updating automatically for us.
Yeah. So I guess touched on a lot of good stuff. I think the last question that people are probably would be wondering at the end of this interview is, all right, why doesn't Jason just have all the good products for himself? And like what's
Yeah.
what's the reasoning behind letting wanting people to succeed and all that?
That's a really, really good question. I sometimes I look at, advertisements that you see out there, especially like these automation providers that you see a lot of times that are kind of selling snake oil to people. And you've like the obvious answer when you're doing like drop shipping is like, why would you do this automation thing? So it's like, well, because I can't run my own store. I'm not allowed to do it. So
Yeah.
I might as well get your money to do it. And initially when we built this out, it was for the same selfish purpose that, listen, I mean, if my store goes down, I have employees that need to get paid. And if I have one singular point of failure, and there's nothing to say that Amazon decides one day that they don't like, us for whatever reason. And I don't have to go through a temporary shutdown with them. Now, after being on Amazon for 8 years, at this point, I don't believe that any suspension is permanent. It's just, from a business perspective, you might have heard this before, but the number one is the scariest thing in business. Meaning, if you have one thing where, in this case, my mom works for me, my brother works for me, we have all the people that work in the warehouse. Just having a store, while it could be like really profitable, in the event of some type of issue with Amazon where, they have to review my account or whatever, I've got cash flow coming in. So I wanted to go the distributor route as opposed to, like my goal is to ultimately one day have my store just be kind of like a side hustle where it's not, it just makes us some money. And I do have like one of my stores is kind of like a side hustle. It's a personal kind of account that I took, sold my crypto a year ago and I put it into inventory. So I don't know if that was a good or a bad decision, but it didn't make as much as I would have made just on Bitcoin. But anyways, yeah, it's really just I'd rather have no one singular point of failure. Even with just having, because as a software provider for years, we would have this kind of like revolving door where someone would come in and another person would get suspended. So it was hard. It was hard to kind of grow that side of things, on the dropship side, and it really ultimately is a lot easier for us to open relationships with the buying power that we have. And, collectively we buy way more than I can afford to do myself. I mean, I've got some decent lines of credit. I've been able to get some small business administration loans from the SBA. So that's been really helpful. But even that on its own is not that, it's a couple $100,000,
Yeah.
in a world where it's a blue ocean of products, and I just can't afford everything. And, I've been so ingrained into the market over the years that it's just kind of, I guess, become a, like now it's like, it's a lot of fun to think that, man, if we're successful with this long term, we're going to make a difference in people's lives, where people are going to have thousands of dollars extra cash flow coming in because of something that we created. And that's a lot more fun than just kind of doing it on your own. like you get to meet people that you enjoy and that kind of like vibe with you, and you don't really get that on your own. But ultimately, it's my payroll is a lot.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
we have over $120,000 a month of expenses, before our company makes any money. So that's a big nut to crack, and doing it all on your own, it takes a lot to get there. So it's kind of been a group effort. We've been able to kind of leverage the group and leverage the crowd. And it's been good for both sides. It's been good for us because our business has grown. We've been able to reinvest money back into the technology and the development, and we keep doing it. Whereas if we were just kind of like using our own supply and not sharing it with anyone, we'd probably make a lot more as far as like sales are concerned. But it's just, again, I like being transparent. That's what I like about you, is you're a transparent guy. Um, it's a lot better for me to leverage your 4 hours every single week and not have to pay you for
Yeah,
that
yeah.
than it is for me to go get a full-time employee that may or may not work out,
Yeah.
in the
And
end,
the risk is essentially on me too. And you're taking a percentage. It's kind of like I had a poker staking business at one point where I was backing players. And
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, they're using my money, but like long run, I was making money from them. They were using their time. I could just sit back and, kind of just hang out while they were putting in the work, they were studying, whatever. It's kind of the same concept where you're
Yeah.
empowering me to be able to play this game, and I'm risking my own time, whatever, and money. And at the end of the day, you get a percentage for providing me this service and the ability to do that. I totally understand. It's like long run, in the short term right now, yeah, you can make a ton more money from like just being the exclusive seller on some of these products within
Mhm.
the seats, whatever network. But also long run, it definitely seems like there's more potential, especially if you become that Google of Amazon or e-commerce that you are describing. Even if you become one hundredth of that, then yeah,
Yeah.
you're gonna make a ton of money with clients for sure. But
That's what we want. We just want to have a big selection of products. That's really it. At the end of the day, if like the bigger the selection, the longer that we stand. And there's always new brands, there's always new SKUs, there's always new products that are coming on the market. There's a brand that doesn't exist today that 1 year from now will be selling.
yeah,
They're not even in business today, and in 1 year from now we'll be selling their products. So
yeah,
that's kind of like the cool thing. And there's brands that we sell today that are going to have new lines, new products, new SKUs. So there's a big opportunity. I just know that yeah, I'm a big believer of the crowd. I really am. There's challenges with it too, because when you're dealing with business opportunity seekers, which is kind of like what you get in the Amazon seller space, it's sort of biz oppy, right? Like you get the MLME type of, I think a lot more now you just have like automation providers that are selling stuff, and nobody
yeah,
runs their own stores anymore, it seems like. But there's still a group out there that are looking. And we wanted to build something that, man, you don't have to go get an automation provider. If you're willing to put an hour or two a week into this and learn, you could do it yourself, and you don't have to like pay. I have a hard time with those people because
yeah.
they what they're doing isn't always. I don't think it's the most ethical thing, but I guess that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But I also feel like, and I know you and I have talked about this before, say I wanted to start an automation thing, I honestly feel like that would also empower, like your software would be able to empower me to do that and feel good about it because it's like legit. It's not drop
Yeah,
shipping, it's
yeah,
wholesale. So like even within your business, I can create my own business kind of thing if I wanted to. But yeah, I agree that, 95% of the automation ads you see on Facebook, YouTube, all that, it's
yeah,
drop shipping, and it's like a very sketchy way of drop shipping.
yeah.
So yeah,
Especially when you see the people talking about Walmart right now. And it's like, didn't they
oh
just
my
like
God.
schwack everyone's store, right? Like everyone just got like snacked at the same
That's
time.
like that's like the equivalent of someone trying to get you to buy Shiba right now. Like it's in the past. Like it's already made, you've already made your
Yeah,
money off of it. Like I was doing it when it was in its prime, and I was making a ton of money, but then all of a sudden, boom, it's like you talked about, the scariest number's one. I had one stream of income, Walmart,
Yeah.
and it got chopped down, and I will never go back. I will never go back to dropshipping on Walmart. So to anyone out there listening who's doing Walmart dropshipping, good luck. I mean, your
I
time
felt like I
maybe.
missed out. You know, when I was seeing everyone post on it, it's like I can't even get an account set up with Walmart. This sucks. But
Yeah.
you know,
There
I
are
don't know if I
people
would
there are
have done
people
the
making
drop shipping
60
side.
grand, 60 grand a month. They're like third month doing it with 10,000 products, like less than 10,000 products.
Jeez.
It was
Oh,
insane. But those
it
were the
was
glory
gold.
days. Those were the glory
Yeah,
days.
and they didn't last. A lot of times, there's little, the little hacks. They never last very long. You know, on
No.
all these platforms. You know, like if there's like a little trick, usually it goes like this. So there's like an inner circle of people that are kind of like sharing with each other. Like you and I might be having a private conversation. We're like, hey, check this out. Do
Yep.
this. Do that. Do
That could
this.
happen, yeah,
And
with
it's like
Walmart.
we're the only two that know this little trick. And then it starts kind of like filtering out, and it's like, oh, there's a few more people. And then like there's this kind of like this. I learned this from a guy named Rich Sheffrin, who's like a really good marketer. There's kind of like this early stage where like that's where the big opportunity is,
Mhm.
and then like it starts kind of like having a point of saturation, and then you get, you know, by the time like there's courses sold on something, the opportunity has like largely already like taken place. You know, it's
Yeah.
kind of like this weird dichotomy of like, you know, the inside stuff. Once you start seeing like all these ads and stuff for something, if you start seeing a whole bunch, it's like the opportunity's already gone.
Well, the thing with the course creation is most of the people who actually create courses, they'll like learn the very basics, right? Like they'll learn how to operate. They may run like a very, very small store just to learn how to do it. Or they just Google everything and then they can write an ebook and write a course and whatever. So all the information is already out there for free, basically, by the time the course comes. Like usually they're just really good at putting all the information together into one thing. And yeah, it's
I
interesting.
can give it. I know this is like off topic, but I was just at a marketing conference the last couple of days. Like it was a mastermind event, and you know, just having a talk. And there's like some really well-known marketers that you would know, everyone would know, that throw big events. You know, that like have thousands of people come to their events. And there's some speakers that are behind on the stage reading a book, like before they're about to start sharing their expertise on what they're about to share. They're behind the stage kind of like reading the 5 pages of the book before they share, you know,
Yeah.
their expert experience on something. So I never really realized it until, you know, because I used to sell courses, but I was never kind of like a guy that wanted to get rich at everyone else's expense. You know,
Yeah.
I wanted to like, I wanted people to be successful. Like the day I die, man, that's the only day that I want to have a bigger party than my wedding. You know what I'm saying? Like I want people coming to my wedding and saying, yeah, I like that guy. He did right by me, you know, and, you
For
know,
sure.
like being short-sighted with trying to get a little bit of cash now, it doesn't generally last for, you know, I've seen it so many times, you know, just over the last 8 years of being, you know, a business person that's kind of like connected into the marketing space. I don't market that much, you know, because I was just at this thing and I'm like, yeah, you know, I don't have to do a lot of marketing. And they're like,
Mhm.
what the heck, man? Because it's like we have, oh, sorry, I almost cramped up in my calf.
Tough workout day
Yeah,
yesterday.
yeah, I think I'm dehydrated.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's we have different challenges, right? Like we have warehouse space challenges. You know, we're about to get 18 pallets, and I'm like, hopefully we can fit all that stuff in our warehouse, you know?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's gonna be stretching. And just getting a new warehouse. I mean, we've been negotiating for 4 months now, and I had one lined up, but it was 30,000 square feet, of which 10 of that was office. And it's like there's like a handful of us, you know, we don't need that much space. So, you know, the monthly nut, it would have been substantial. You know, we would have been able to grow and we would have been able to go crazy, but we would have had to go crazy. You know, we would have had to open up the
Yeah.
floodgates.
We put a
Now,
lot of pressure on you real quick.
yeah, I'll tell you a cool little thing that we're working on right now. We'll see if we finalize this, but there's this retail space. It's off of, you know, one of the main roads here in Jacksonville, and it's got a warehouse, it's got office space, and it's got retail storefront. So we're we're in the process of kind of negotiating a lease on that. And if we get it, we're going to be able to open direct relationships with some of the big tool companies, which, because they won't sell to us, right? We have to go through a distributor, and that distributor, you'll see, like, tools is a weird category because you might be buying that product at the same exact cost that Amazon is selling it at, right? Like you'll see that a lot because Amazon is selling it at the same cost or same price. Like the tool companies kind of set that, and they say, DeWalt, for example, they say you have to sell this for no less than $239.99. You know, and that might be our buy cost, you know, because they tell the same thing to the distributor who's selling it, is like, you can't sell this less. You're selling it essentially at the same price that Home Depot is allowed to sell it at, or Amazon is able to sell it at. So we're trying to kind of, man, I should keep this quiet, but we're trying to backdoor in, you know, we're trying to get a backdoor in to where we set up a retail storefront. Whether people come in and buy or not, I don't know if we really care all that much. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. However, our ideal situation is we're able to get that 20 or 30% that we're giving up right now, which would obviously open up a pretty nice world of opportunities. You know, with that.
Yeah, I can see that working for sure. That does sound like a good idea. I thought you were going to say you were going to sell all of the returns that the clients get from Amazon in the used retail space, or like,
so,
have like
know,
a retail space.
We do, you know, like on the dropship side, we get like our supplier just like refunds us on everything. They don't require us to send it back. I think it's because we just send them so much business, they don't care. So we send all that stuff back into FBA now and just like let it sell through FBA. It's just like free found money.
Nice.
Because they already gave us our money back on that product. So it's like, we just get that extra free money.
Yeah. Their markup is probably so good. They don't care about a couple returns. Yeah. Makes sense to me. Well, I think we touched on everything that I wanted to touch on. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add to that you thought about, or are you?
I mean, it's a you know, it's a long game, right? If you come into this with, you know, with a, you know, give yourself a year instead of give yourself a few weeks, you know, like for something to work. A lot of people, they don't give themselves enough time to see things through. I think we just, as humans, we get bored really easily, and this business really is kind of boring. There's not much to do, right? It's like hurry up and wait, because you know, you order the product and you don't even touch it, you never see it, right? So it's like, I don't have to do much, you know. So but I think of Amazon as it's like it's a platform for us to trade products, you know, like trade, just like, you know, if you're day trading, you know, stocks or something, you know, here we're just day trading kind of the arbitrage of products. And I think you can get long-term greater than market returns. You know, if you're looking at, if I was to park my money, now the difference is it's more active. And like, whereas if you just put your money in the market, you do nothing, right? Like it's in the S&P 500. I don't have to touch it, out of sight, out of mind. Whereas this, you know, you have more active management, but you know, if you do a good job, you could double your money in a year. And then if you kind of use the compounding rules, you know, you can continue, you know, doubling and doubling and doubling. And, you know, you give yourself 5 years, sky's the limit, you know, like then you have the extra cash that, you know, you could be putting into real estate or blockchain technologies, or, you know, cryptos, or, you know, just put it in the S&P 500 and get your money working for you. That's my single biggest financial rule is you can't outwork your money, you know. So the more of it that you have working for you, you know, like over the last few days, I haven't worked and money's just coming in, you know, because the work that we did a month ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, you know, that the money is just constantly in play, constantly working, constantly flowing through. And so if you come into this, you know, with a long-term perspective, and don't beat yourself up if you make some mistakes, because we all make mistakes, you know, I do. So it's just part of the game. You know, the one thing that you got to learn is every mistake's temporary, and you learn from it. Just what is the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over. So, be willing to go make the mistake, but learn from it. And if you don't keep making the same mistake, you'll have that daily cash flow coming in off of those sales. And once you get things moving, it's really easy to get money, right? It's if you have an established business that has a couple years worth of tax returns. I mean, you can get SBA loans, and then there's everything in between, from a bank giving you a 10-year note. SBA loans happen to be 10-year notes, whereas you can go to Cabbage or something like that, and they give you 6 months, and you're going to pay a lot higher interest. But once you get things up and running, it's really easy to get money.
Yeah,
And
especially even with something like this, right? Like you can find investors very easy because it's physical
yeah,
product, it's tangible.
yeah,
So yeah, I there's always money out there for sure.
yeah, yeah. So, well, thanks for having me on today, man. I really appreciate it, and I'm happy to see how things are going with you, and I'm excited to see what the next 6 months holds for you as you continue kind of scaling things up, and just keep growing that inventory. Soon enough, you'll be making thousands a month.
Yeah,
So it's
hopefully
exciting. It's
that's the
exciting to
plan.
see you get past, because every time someone starts, I'm like, well, hopefully they last. Like every time people start, like I want everyone to have success. I hate when people leave us, but at the end of the day, I know that there's going to be a number of people that do really, really well off of this. They buy in and they really go for it, and that's rewarding. So I'm excited to see how things go for you. I know that you've been through some things over the last year, in business, and hopefully this gives you a nice, solid, stable footing moving forward.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that a lot. Yeah, and definitely, like you said, there have been some things, but I feel like I'm on the up now, and thanks to Ecom Solutions. But I appreciate you coming on, and I'm gonna leave a link in the description to a video actually showing the seats process and all, like a little bit more of just what Ecom Solutions is, so people can actually see it on the screen. But yeah, thanks again, Jason. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, man. Good talking to you, Tyler. Have a good day.
You too.